Well, this is where I want to share with you an incredible story from Robin. This is Robin's story, Robin's story, Robin's story. I give credit to Robin. I'm going to tell it to you in her own words. I have some similar stories, which I'll talk about afterwards just briefly, but this story is magnificent. She says, this is the most significant and profound experience that I've ever had, where I saw without a doubt and knew with my whole being that with God all things are possible. I was 16 years old. We got a 16-year-old out there, right? Is Gina here? Not today. Where's Gina? Oh, she's with the kids. Are you 16? Not yet. But she was young, right? 16 years old. I was 16 years old. Oh, I'm going to do a lot of commentary. Can you handle it? Okay, I'll let you know when I'm talking. I was 16 years old. This is Robin. It was the day before I was to start my senior year of high school. And I was playing in my swimming pool with a friend of mine, and I started to experience pain in my face. And the whole right side of my face was swollen and uncomfortable. We couldn't figure it out, what it possibly could be, and assessed it mainly probably due to stress. Getting ready to start my big senior year, anxious, wanting it all to go well, so we let it go. And the next morning, that which had been swelling on the side of my face shifted up to the swelling around my eye. And there was a significant puffiness around my right eye. And difficult though it was, I proceeded to my first day of school. And by the following morning, my right eye was completely swollen shut. And just around the perimeter, at each end of my eyebrow, blisters had emerged. Well, I'm sure you can imagine how joyous it was to attend my senior year looking like that. But I did it anyway. By the following day, those blisters had erupted and turned into open sores. I was in a great deal of pain, but chose to attend school, bandage over my eye. Now this is my commentary. Does this sound like a true student? They never know when to go to the doctor. Go to the doctor. But anyway, it takes a long time to get us there. So anyway, she goes back to school. And by the end of that afternoon, the pain was so significant, it was nearly unbearable. It almost felt like someone was ramming an ice pick into the side of my head over and over again. My mother, wanting very much as mothers do to protect me, help me, heal me, took me to the emergency room. And they examined me, and they tossed out a few lovely facts, some diagnoses, as in, well, this might be leukemia. And then, you know what I'm thinking is, based on the fact that this is around your eye, it's pretty severe. There's probably going to be some blindness involved. Okay. And then one more thing, it could be shingles. But boy, you don't want it to be shingles, because shingles is a terribly painful disease and takes weeks upon weeks upon weeks to run its course. It's awful, it's horrible. You don't want it to be that. But basically, we don't really know what it is. Ever had this in the emergency room? So here's some pain medication, and off you go. They had said all of this in front of me, of course, so I was handed some information, some facts. The next day, my mother had a lineup of doctor's appointments. We've got to solve this problem. The first I went to see was my general practitioner, who literally looked at me like I was from the planet Mars. He could not even conceive what was going on with me, backed away from me, and said, I cannot help you. The next was an eye doctor, which seemed to make sense because it was centered around the eye, but he couldn't diagnose the problem. But he did agree with the doctors in the ER that I would definitely be permanently blind in my right eye within 24 hours. Finally, we went to see a dermatologist who immediately diagnosed me as having shingles. He was struck, however, because shingles is a virus that generally stays centered in only one nerve center, one area where it starts. It stays. But by the time I got to see him, not only did I have these large sores around my eye, but I had spots that were like chicken pox all over my body. So the nurses out there and the doctors, right, are going, uh-oh. That's my commentary. Okay. So he put me into the hospital straight away, and they immediately started an aggressive course of antibiotics. It's the only way to reverse the effects of this virus. By the end of that evening, not only did I have spots all over me, but they had evolved into lesions not unlike the one around my eye. The next day, it had accelerated, and they were able to assess through blood tests that it had completely invaded my system and had disabled my immune system. So I had no way to fight it anymore. And my primary organs were beginning to shut down, and they came in to bring my mother the news. And he said, "I'm sorry. It's gotten so aggressive. I've never seen anything like it. It's out of control. There's nothing else we can do. We're giving her the most aggressive treatment that we know, and it's not improving. It's not even stopping. It's accelerating. She's not going to make it. She can't. It's too much. It's everywhere. You need to call whoever you need to call, because this is her last day here." And she called. She called my dad, she called my brother, and called some friends. And then, listen to this, folks. And then we started to talk. And we remembered through our spiritual teaching that we know that when something shows up in our physical body, it has an origin in thought. Are you listening? They began to talk. They knew that if something shows up in the body, it has its origin in thought. Something in consciousness starts that which shows up in our body. And we had kept hearing the phrase, out of control, out of control, out of control. What is out of control? And we were in a place in our lives, the two of us, this is Robin and her mother, where everything was out of control. As soon as I finished school, I was going to college. My mom was leaving for 2 years to become a minister at Unity Institute. We had sold our house. She had changed her job. Everything was out of control. And I felt out of control and demonstrated this in physicality. So once we cleared the source of my illness, we began to pray. So did you hear that? She said, once we cleared the source. What's cleared the source? You know what's going on. Now, is it necessary to know what's going on in order to enter prayer? No. It's helpful. It's helpful if you can make A connect to B, if you can get it. What is this about? But it's not necessary. So once we cleared the source of my illness, we began to pray. It wasn't about a virus, right? You guys know that, right? Do you know that you can't get a virus? Or catch bacteria? I'm really going to test the medical people now. Okay, just want to be sure you know that. We live among viruses all over the place. Okay, so why did she get this one? Feeling out of control. Okay, so we begin to pray, and regardless of the outer appearance that I was dying, and my mom tells the story as someone who has sat with many people in the moment that they died, and she describes that my physical being had the translucency and energy of all those people she sat with as they died. How many of you have sat with people who have died? You know what she's talking about? How the energy starts to leave the body before the time.